Emotions aren't the problem. The problem is that most of us were never taught how to regulate our emotions when things get tense, and we weren't given any real training on how to handle what we actually feel. I'm Doug Noll. I'm a mediator, peacemaker, and creator of a system that's helped thousands of people get better at resolving conflicting situations, from maximum security prisons to the Congressional Budget Office. And over 40 years as a trial lawyer and a peacemaker, this is one of the most powerful things I've ever discovered. You don't need to suppress your emotions. Instead, all you have to do is understand and know exactly how to process them in real time. So in this video, we're going to cover why emotional regulation is a skill you can learn, the 3 stages your brain moves through during conflict, and the exact process you can use with yourself or anyone else to calm anybody in under 2 minutes. So let's talk about this in detail. The core truth is that every person is born with affect. We're not born with emotions. We have to learn how to construct emotions. But nobody was born with the skills how to manage those emotions once constructed. They are 2 completely different things. And most people have spent their entire lives believing they should already know how to do something no one ever taught them. Emotional dysregulation is not weakness. It's not immaturity. It's what happens when the intensity of your emotional experience exceeds your current capacity to manage it. That gap is called emotional dysregulation. And it shows up as outbursts, shutting down, saying things you don't mean, or completely losing access to your reasoning. When emotions flood the system, a part of your brain called the amygdala overrides the prefrontal cortex. The thinking brain goes offline. What is left is reactive behavior that was programmed long before you had any say in the matter. I've spent 40 years watching highly intelligent, highly educated people become completely irrational the moment their emotions got big enough. It had nothing to do with their IQ. It had everything to do with this dysregulation gap. And that's why parenting is so important. Children are not being manipulated when they melt down over a grilled cheese sandwich cut the wrong way. They are showing you that their accumulated emotional load exceeded their current skill set. The grilled cheese is not the issue. The overflow is. And this matters for adults too, because the same dynamic plays out in boardrooms and bedrooms every single day. Most people carry deep shame about struggling emotionally. Shame about something you were never taught doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't feel ashamed for not knowing how to fly an airplane. Emotional regulation is a skill. You can learn it. And we should not feel shamed over the fact that we become emotionally dysregulated. We simply have to learn some new skills. So if regulation is a skill and not a personality trait, the question is, how does it actually get built? Because the answer is not what most people think. Stay with me to learn how to do it. Co-regulation is the mechanism through which regulation is built. You basically have to learn that you cannot think your way out of a dysregulated state. You cannot logic yourself into calm. You cannot persuade people into peace. You cannot will your amygdala to stand down. What you can do is borrow calm from another regulated nervous system. When one person's nervous system is regulated and they remain present with someone who is dysregulated, the dysregulated system starts to settle down. This is not a metaphor. This is neurobiology. All kinds of systems such as mirror neurons, vagal tone, and neurochemistry of felt safety play a role in this process. So for example, when there's turbulence on a plane and you look at the flight attendant and she's calm, your nervous system absorbs that and you calm down. You don't need her to explain the aerodynamics. You don't need to understand how turbulence forms in the atmosphere. All you need is her regulated presence. And that is co-regulation. And it works the same way between a parent and a child, or a leader and a team, or a mediator and 2 people in conflict. I've sat across from people in the worst moments of their lives, people who have lost everything, people who were furious and terrified and completely flooded. And I learned very early on that the moment I tried to convince or explain or persuade, I lost them. The only thing that worked was staying regulated myself. My nervous system had to be the anchor. That's co-regulation. My approach to co-regulation is very specific. It's not just being calm. It's naming what the other person is feeling directly and declaratively in the moment. For example, you're angry. You feel completely overwhelmed. You're scared. When you name what someone feels, the amygdala activity in their brain drops down. The prefrontal cortex comes back online, and you are literally lending them your prefrontal cortex for the 90 seconds it takes for them to calm down. Most people, when confronted with somebody who is dysregulated, become dysregulated themselves because it takes real skill to stay regulated when someone is yelling at you or screaming at you. That skill is built through practice, not through personality. Quick one before we go further. If you're watching this and recognizing that your own patterns in what I just described, I put together a free guide called The Neuroscience of Reaction. It breaks down exactly why your brain responds to the ideas it does when emotions get tense, what's actually happening at the neurological level, and what it means for how you can show up under pressure. Check out the description in the free link. So here's where it gets important. Co-regulation is not a one-time event. One calm response does not fix years of dysregulation. There's a reason for that, and understanding it changes everything about how you show up consistently. Let me explain. Regulation is not built in a single moment of calm. It's built through repeated experiences of co-regulation over time. The nervous system learns what safety feels like through repetition, not through insight. I've met so many people who tried affect labeling once or stayed calm once during a blow-up, and when it didn't immediately fix everything, they concluded it didn't work. That's like going to the gym once and wondering why you're not stronger or you've lost weight. The skill builds through repetition. What is actually happening neurologically during repetition is that a dysregulated nervous system is met with a regulated one, and it settles. It lays down a new neural pathway over and over and over again. And over time, that pathway becomes the default. The person begins to access regulation on their own because they have internalized what it feels like. The parenting parallel is perfect. Children learn how to regulate or dysregulate through repeated experience with their caregivers. If they have calm caregivers, they learn how to regulate. If they have anxious caregivers, they learn how to dysregulate. Adults who missed that or grew up in environments that were unpredictable or volatile often have undeveloped regulation pathways. But the good news is the neuroplasticity means those pathways can still be built. The process is the same. It's just called reparenting, even if you're older. Inside maximum security prisons, I worked with men who had spent decades with no access to co-regulation. Every relationship they'd ever seen or been in was high conflict. To them, violence was the conflict resolution method of choice. What I watched over months of repetition was not dramatic transformation. It was gradual, steady change. Men who used to escalate immediately started pausing, not because they had a breakthrough, but because their nervous system had enough repeated experiences of calm to start choosing it. The implication of this is profound. If you manage people, lead a team, or raise children, your consistency under pressure is not just professionally admirable, it's neurologically formative for the people around you. The regulated leader literally shapes the nervous systems of their teams over time. Most content about emotional regulation is aimed at parents managing children, especially children who suffer from autism or Asperger's or ADHD. But the adults managing those kids are often as dysregulated as the kids, and they're managing from that dysregulated state. If you grew up without access to consistent co-regulation, which is most people, you learn to suppress, mask, explode, shut down, be emotionally unavailable. Unhealthy emotional expression, including healthy anger, was shut down. So reparenting is the process of learning as an adult to reclaim access to that. Healthy anger is not aggression. It's a signal that tells you that a boundary has been crossed or a value has been violated. When you lose access to it, you also lose the ability to respond proportionally. You either suppress until you explode or you numb out completely. One of the most underrated emotional skills is the ability to hold opposing truths without resolving them. You can love your child deeply and also grieve who you were before you had them. You can be committed to a relationship and also feel trapped some days. The attempt to resolve that tension by choosing one truth over the other is what creates unnecessary suffering. In mediation, I see this constantly. Two people in conflict, each holding one truth, each convinced the other truth cancels theirs out. The moment they can hold both, the conflict softens and often resolution follows. We've got a problem with social media. The quick dopamine hits from likes and validation give temporary relief and a momentary sense of being seen. This matters because dysregulated people are often people whose need to feel seen was never consistently met. Social media exploits that gap. The problem is not the platform. The problem is that a dopamine hit is not co-regulation. It mimics the feeling of being seen without actually addressing the underlying need. And so the relief is real, but short-lived, and the need grows and becomes addictive. This skill gap closes the same way it opens, through repeated experiences of being met by a regulated presence. Whether that's a therapist, a skilled partner, a coach, or deliberate practice of the tools. The brain is plastic, it can learn, and the pathways can be built at any age. There's one more piece here, and it's the one that ties all of this together, because everything we've talked about, co-regulation, repetition, reparenting, all connect back to one thing, the relationship. And the reason that matters is not what most people think. So just hang with me for a couple of more minutes. Here's the fundamental truth. Emotional regulation is not taught through information. It's transferred through relationship. Kids don't learn to regulate because their parents explained it to them. They learn because they had a caregiver whose regulated presence over time gave their nervous system the repeated experience of settling, of safety. Attachment and regulation are basically the same thing. Secure attachment is what happens when a child can count on a caregiver to be present and regulated. That predictability is what builds the nervous system capacity to tolerate big emotions without being overwhelmed by them. What we call secure attachment is, at the neurological level, a well-trained vagal brake, a nervous system that has learned it is safe to feel big feelings because someone will be there. Thus, the caregiver's calm is the curriculum, not the words, not the lessons, the regulated presence repeatedly over time. This is why you can't logic a dysregulated child into calm, and why you can't logic a dysregulated adult into calm either. The logic can come later, but the calm has to come first. What I know now is persuasion, argument, logic doesn't help. Real influence, the kind that changes behavior and builds trust, comes from relationship, from being the regulated presence in the room that someone's nervous system learns to lean toward, where they can find safety. That is what de-escalation actually is. Not a technique, it's a relationship. Regulation is a skill. It is learned through relationship. It is built through repetition, and it's never too late to start. If everything we've just covered resonated with you and you want the practical framework for applying this in real conversations, I put together a free masterclass called How to Stop Any Fight in 90 Seconds. It walks you through the complete system, how to read what someone is actually feeling, how to stay regulated while they're not, and what to say that actually works when things get heated. It's free, and the link is in the description. So here's the bottom line. Nobody taught you this, and that's not your fault. Dysregulation is a skill gap, not a character flaw. Calm is transferable. Regulation is buildable. And the relationship is always the vehicle. The work starts with your own nervous system. When you get regulated, you become the anchor for everyone around you. And that is not a soft idea, that is neuroscience. So, if you're a leader, parent, or professional, or someone in a relationship where conflict keeps showing up and you're tired of the same old patterns, this is the exact work I do one-on-one. We get specific about what's happening in your nervous system, your communication, and your relationships. We build the actual skills, not just the understanding. And you become a Jedi master of calming any person in 90 seconds or less. If you want, you can book a free strategy call. The link is in the description. And also let me know in the comments if there's a specific topic you'd like me to talk about or cover. I do check them. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.